Little or much, it's the title of our study this morning. And the Bible passage written in the Old Testament has remained for God's people, especially the people that lived in the Old Testament, a very important passage for them. They knew this by heart. They memorized it. They had it with them in all places. If you have a chance to go home and read chapter 6 in the book called Deuteronomy, you'll see that God told them, put it everywhere so you can see it. So it reminds you, the advertisement in the Western culture, it's quite interesting. Sometimes you go in one place and you see the same advertisement, so they try to get in your mind. Well, God wanted to do that for his people. And this was supposed to be in all places. They were supposed to hear it and see it. So it was a constant reminder for them and an invitation to love God. Verse 5, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. We'll come back to this passage, but let me begin with a story. One day Jesus was almost at the end of the day. He just blessed the children and healed a few people, and he was about to go when a red Ferrari pulled next to him, and out of the car gets this very handsome man, well-dressed, and by his car alone, it's a Ferrari model F8, and I forgot the rest of it. The value of the car, I was curious. By the way, this is a picture. It's not a painting. So I said, if it's a picture, then I have to find out what's the model of the car. So I went online and I found the model of the car, and guess what is it? Can anybody? It's a Ferrari. Yes, it's a Ferrari. And the value of the car is between $300,000 to $400,000. It's only that. So coming back to the story, the guy pulled very close to Jesus, got out of the car. As he saw Jesus leaving, he ran to Jesus and said, good teacher, may I talk to you for a second, please? And Jesus says, yes. What would you like to talk about? And the young man said, there is something that's missing in my life. And my main question is, what am I supposed to do to have the complete assurance of the eternal life? And Jesus said, well, do you know the commandments? Do you know the 10 commandments? And he said, sure, I know all of them. I grew up in a very religious family. I can tell you all by heart. So I am a religious person. I know them. Sure, I know all of them. And I kept them all since my youth. I'm a very moral person. Actually, I took theology classes. I'm very familiar with the Bible. I grew up in a religious person, and they just elected me as an elder in their church. So people, I'm a well-respected person and loved in my community. Is there anything I miss? And Jesus looked at him, and this man was kind of the same age with Jesus. By this time, Jesus is about 30 years old, 30-something. And probably this man was somewhere in the same age range. And look at him, and Jesus loved him. Loved him with the compassion that you have about certain people when you see that there is so much potential in them. And Jesus looked at him and said, if you are serious about this, go sell your car, sell your businesses, even the last bank that you have acquired, sell everything you have. And then, come and follow me, pick up your cross, and let's move on together through life. And the story goes that the man got into his car very thoughtful. His girlfriend, probably his fiancée, said, what did he just said? This is insanity. I mean, who's this guy, Jesus, that you brought me to? He took his car and his girlfriend and everything else and took off, never to see Jesus again. Have you heard this story before? Is it in the Bible? Okay, it's in the Bible. Now, Yes, yes, yes. So the painting that, I mean, it's a picture, by the way, again, it's a picture done in Italy. The name of the man who came up with this idea is Michael Belk. Let me go back. Oh, no, this is it. It's Michael Belk. And he was into professional photography for a number of years, I think for about 30 years. He did very well. He took pictures and did advertising for big companies. And at one point in his life, he came to that emptiness which sometimes some of us come. You may have heard the word that says that there is a hole in the human heart that only God can fill with His presence. Nothing else can fill that hole in human heart. You can chase whatever you want, but that emptiness is still there until God takes that place. Well, it happens, again, to thousands and thousands of people, and Michael was one of them. Well, he came to an interesting experience in his life, and he says, despite my success, something was missing. The year I made the most and had the most was also the year I was most miserable. My journey deterred into a wilderness of despair. And it happened that many people find God exactly at that point. When there is nothing else that makes sense, God is the ultimate hope. And Michael said, well, God gave me this talent, photography. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a scholar. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to use my photography talent to use it for God now. And he turned into creating these images that you see. He made these images, real pictures. They're done in Italy. He got a crew of people. And if you Google Journeys with the Messiah, you'll find all his artwork. It's amazing. I love it. And he got the idea of bringing Jesus from the first century into the 21st century situations. And the story of the rich young ruler, as we call him, he put it in a picture of the 21st century. The rest, I can send you the picture, the file, if you like. It's going to be clearer. But before we looked into the story closer, I would like to read it from the Bible for those of us who have never read it, or just as a reminder. So you don't believe that I made it, I will read it from the Bible. You will find this in 3 of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, not in John, but in 3 of them. And I chose Mark for this morning. And it says like this. Now as he was going out on the road, Jesus, someone came running, knelt before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life?" So Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that is God. You know the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not murder. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not defraud. Honor your father and mother." And he answered and said to him, "Teacher, all these things I have kept from my youth." Then Jesus looked at him, loved him, and said to him, "One thing you lack. Go your way, sell whatever you have and give it to the poor. You will have a treasure in heaven, and come, take up the cross and follow me." But he was sad at this word and went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. This is the word of the Lord. So, again, I was thinking of this picture. And by the way, each one of his pictures, painting, they have a title. The title for this is Quandary. Is that the way we read it? What's quandary? And what's the meaning of it? What does it mean? A dilemma. Yes, I Googled the meaning and what does it mean. And it's someone that's in a very perplexing situation where you really have to make a choice between very important things. And Actually, what is the choice of this young man? What is his quandary? What's the dilemma for him? What is his problem? Because he was a good man. Yes, Christy, keep your... Yes. Choosing Jesus or choosing self. But he was a moral person. Was he a moral person? He was. Was he a religious person? He would go to church every Saturday, right? Do you think that if anybody asked him for money, would he give money? I think he would. Do you think that it was an appeal in church for some fundraising for the school or for the roof of the church? Would he give money? I think he will give and beyond because he had. So what was he missing? Was anything missing in his life? He was probably respectful. He was kind. He was the ideal person. He was the ideal son-in-law you would like for your daughter. He was the ideal son you would like to have. He was the ideal friend. He was everything. And still something is missing. His priorities, says Valerie. I'll share with you a few passages from the wonderful book, Desire of Ages. And because I couldn't say it better than Sister White says, Ellen White says. Christ read the ruler's heart. Only one thing he lacked, but that was a vital principle. He needed the love of God in his soul. Did he love God? I think he loved God. He loved God. How much? He loved much, very much, but not totally. This lack, unless supplied, would prove fatal to him. His whole nature would become corrupted. By indulgence, selfishness would strengthen. That he might receive the love of God, his supreme love for self must be surrendered. So he loved God very much, but he loved something else more than God, which is his own self. How easy is to find that? Is it easy to find? Because I am under the assumption that all of us here love God. All of us. I shall assume that all of us love God, present in this room, including me. But there is one question. The question is, how much do we love God? Do we love him 80%, 85%, 90%, 95%? His exalted position and his possessions were exerting a subtle influence for evil upon his character. If cherished, they will supplant God in his affections. To keep back little or much from God was to retain that which would lessen his moral strength and efficiency. For if the things of this world are cherished, however uncertain and unworthy they may be, they will become all-absorbing. You see, we look at that picture of the very wealthy man and we say, oh, sure, he had a problem. I'm not there, right? And it's easy for me to point to him. But that's not the issue, because you don't have to be necessarily a wealthy person to lose your salvation. Anybody can lose it. Why? We can lose it if there is anything else that we love more than God. If you look at these Bible passages, we read one, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. So it seems to me that in the Bible, God is asking for how much? How much love? He's asking for all my love to him. Do I read this right? Let's see a few other passages. Deuteronomy 4:9. By the way, in the book of Deuteronomy, this idea of loving God with all my heart comes 9 times. Just in the book of Deuteronomy. But from there you shall seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you seek him with, help me, all your heart and with all your soul. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live. Joshua 22:5. But take careful heed to the commandments and the law which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, to hold fast to him, and serve him with all your heart, with all your soul. Jeremiah 29:13. And you shall seek me and find me when you shall search for me with all your heart. The problem with the young rich ruler we read about, it was not that he was a bad man. He was not a bad man. He was an excellent young man. He was a very moral person. He was very religious. He was almost perfect. One thing is missing. He didn't love God with all his. He loved God, but with not with all his heart. And that brought me to the title. I'm reading, like many of you do, through the Bible, and this year I'm reading through the Gospels, and I was reading the book The Desire of Ages, which is the wonderful biography of Christ. And when I came to this chapter, this passage stuck into my mind. To keep back little or much from God was to retain that which would lessen his moral strength. You know what I was thinking? Do you think I'm a good person? My neighbors think that. I hope you do. I think I'm a good person. By what standards? But I'm a good person. Do you think that I can be kind to people? I can be kind to people. Do you think I can give to church? I can. Do I love God? Yes. There is a question there. Is there anything in my heart that I still keep for myself, little or much? Can you give examples that I could keep for myself, little or much, that would actually separate me from God? Can you think of anything? Pride. What else? Anybody else? Anger. Time, yeah. Lust. Intolerance. Independence. Well, how about you? Is there anything in your life? You are all wonderful people. We're good people, all of us, right? Wonderful people. The question is not that, are we good people? Are we Christians? Are we Seventh-day Adventists? That's not the question. The fundamental question is, do we keep something? Do we keep little or much from God? Lord, I love you, but there is something. For if the things of this world are cherished, however uncertain and unworthy, in other words, how big or small, some people may have a problem with some ideas, and they say, well, I can't tolerate that idea. I'm not going to accept that idea. I don't like it. Some people have problems at the very practical level of life. Do you think that social media can be a problem? Do you think that social media can take my time from the devotion? Do you think that in the evening, we may be speaking more during the week of prayer, but social media is a big problem for a lot of people, for a lot of us. And what it takes from me. It's very entertaining. It's very entertaining, right? It's very entertaining. It can take from me my affections to God. It can take, instead of turning my heart to God in love and affection to Him, you can just spend the time looking at this reel and this and that and whatever funny things or whatever interesting thing. And that takes 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe 2 hours. When the question is, if Jesus will be with us, He'll say, well, if you love me, what's holding you back from spending time with me, actually? Only those who will become co-workers with Christ, only those who will say, Lord, all I have and all I am is yours. will be acknowledged as sons and daughters of God. All should consider what it means to desire heaven and yet to turn away because of the conditions laid down. It's interesting because Jesus met lots of wealthy people, right? Do you remember of any other wealthy people Jesus met in his journey, on 3 years of journey? Nicodemus was a very wealthy man. He was a parliament member, a government member, and he was very wealthy. Zacchaeus was another one, right? When you think of the Bible, where are the wealthy people in the Bible? Very wealthy people. What about Job? Job was a very wealthy caliph. What about Abraham? He was a very wealthy man. What about King David? So there are plenty of wealthy people in the Bible. God, Jesus, didn't ask them to sell everything and give away. He didn't do that. Why? Because for those people, probably wealth was not a problem. If God would have said, give it away, they would have said, oh, sure, not a problem. Take it. Wealth was not a problem for them. So what I'm thinking, good people, very good people, Christian people coming to church, God is asking, and I was thinking, is God mean when is he asking all from me? God will never take away from me something that benefits my life. Would you agree with that? He will never take away from me something that's a blessing for me. Not even the slide. I'd like to finish the passage. All should consider what it means to desire heaven and yet to turn away because the conditions lay down. Think of what it means to say no to Christ. The ruler said, no, I cannot give you all. Do we say the same? This passage really brings home the essence of the relationship with God. Would you agree? The essence of the relationship with God is, do I love God with all my heart? That's the question. That's the bottom line question. You don't have to be an expert in the Bible. You don't have to be necessarily the greatest missionary. You don't have to be anything else. But one thing, to love God with all your heart. And sometimes you wonder, is that even possible? Is that even possible? Well, I think it's possible. We find also in the Bible examples, and we find examples in the real life. I thought of one. You may have examples of people, and you yourself definitely may be one of these people. So, I don't know what's happening. Is the rain? Okay. Thank you, Cindy. No problem. Do you know these young guys? You probably know them both. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kirk Cameron. I haven't seen the series of Growing Pains. I was in Romania at that time. We didn't see this movie, but some of you might have watched the series at one point, right? And you know what's all about. I read about him. So, DiCaprio became one of the famous actors, and I know that he played in Titanic and other movies. Kirk Cameron was with him playing in the same series. The difference is that these friends, these teenagers, they actually made a choice in their life that split the directions of their lives. So DiCaprio became a phenomenal, a Hollywood star, and probably very rich and famous, and on and on. Kirk Cameron, at one point when he was 17 or so, he made a different choice in life. He was in the movie industry by the time he was 9 years old. And at one point, when he was a teenager, a girl invited him to church. He was an atheist by that time. He didn't believe in God, the Bible didn't exist, and anything else. But he came to church. He listened to one sermon, and that made him think of a possibility of a creator and of a God. He began to search for God, and he took it seriously, even though he was very young. And obviously, when it's interesting because that brought him to a quandary. When at one point in his life he realized what God invites him to live and do is not going to work with his life in Hollywood. And he said, I have to make a choice. And he made a choice. He gave up on the Hollywood. Do you know how much he would make when he was, at that time when he was playing in this movie? He would make, at that time, he would make $50,000 a week. He will make, that's what I've read about him. He will make $50,000 a week. Do you think it was easy to give up on all that? Or the power and influence and the charm. I mean, everybody was about him. In one of his small biographies, he said, there won't be anybody to say no to him. He gave it all up. Why? Because at one point he realized that, he said, either I love God all or nothing. And he chose to love God all. It's a beautiful contemporary story, I would say, of a rich man living in the 20th century and gave it all up to follow Christ. Recently, some of you may know that very recently he came up with an interesting idea for the evangelical world because he's not a Seventh-day Adventist. He embraced the evangelical Christianity. I'm not exactly sure, you might know more than I do. How come? But he came to the understanding that the everlasting hell is not a biblical teaching. And he made that very public. He and one of his sons, they had a podcast. I saw a little bit of that. And they discussed this idea that actually the whole burning in hell forever and ever and ever and ever is not in the Bible. It's not supported by the Bible if you read the Bible consistently. And he came out speaking about it. And many of his evangelical friends are actually criticizing him for that. But he moves in this direction. So what impresses me is, by the way, we, Seventh-day Adventists, as the way we read the Bible, we do not believe in an everlasting hell, a continual punishment. We do not find that in the Bible. We do not find that consistent with the character of God. And it seems that he found this by himself. So it's interesting how God invites someone in the journey with him, how God reveals to people more and more of who he is. And that's wonderful, I think. It is just wonderful. Because I believe in heaven, there will be plenty of people that maybe they didn't understand all the truth or much of the truth that we know, but they had one supreme quality, which is they loved God with all their hearts. So, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And we shouldn't hold back little or much. So, we will have a week of prayer. It begins today. Every evening, we will meet here to pray, to read, to think together. And you are invited to come. But I was thinking this morning, would you find it appropriate if we come maybe in very small groups, 2 or 3, and pray? Just thinking, find someone that you like to pray with, maybe again 2 or 3 in a small group. Short prayers, don't make it long. But let's spend some time in prayer and actually think, is there anything in my heart that actually holds me back? Maybe the social media, maybe unforgiveness, maybe pride, maybe materialism, maybe who knows what. I don't think that we need to confess that to other human beings, but I think, it may be good that we can pray for each other. And why not begin this morning? So let's take a few minutes at the end of this service. Find someone. Again, find someone here, and we'll spend some time in prayer, if that's okay with you. If you don't feel comfortable, that's not a problem at all. But I thought of spending some time in prayer as we get into this week of prayer, being the first full week of the year. We asked Heather to play for us during this time. And at one point, I'll have a prayer.